Good morning, everyone. I'm in a very good mood today. I am. I'm in a serious mood. It has nothing to do with any of you. I was on the plane yesterday, flying here. I looked in my little briefcase, a Coach, I might add. Not really, but I just thought I'd say that for Victor. It actually is a Coach. And my wallet was gone. I lost my wallet at the airport, but luckily I called and I had bought something and they shipped it overnight and I now have my wallet. So today can only be a good day for me. So Michael, I know I only have 20 minutes, but thank you very much for recognizing Adidas, and we're doing better. I was telling Matt Powell we couldn't have done any worse. So our growth is from a very low base. Diane will tell you that. She couldn't give our stuff away a couple years ago. Now she's my friend. She didn't talk to me the first time I met her. She was with the Nike people. Now I can't get rid of her. Okay, I need to get on with it. Okay, so no matter what industry you're in, and this is the footwear industry, but no matter what industry you're in, if you're a leader, like everyone in this room, you have so many responsibilities that consume the way you think and consume what you do every day. But there's one responsibility that, regardless of what part of the industry you're in, we all share the same thing, and that is this. Regardless of how much success you've had in the past or today, how are you going to ensure that you have that success in the future? And that, if there's one thing that all of you are really responsible for, if there's one burden that's on your shoulders, it's how do you make sure that you have success in the future? And when you look at the world today, you look at the economy, you look at regulation, you look at technology, the changing consumer behaviors, the changing workforce, it's a pretty daunting, unpredictable, unclear world we live in. Michael started with that. We've moved in the last 10 years from a very kind of predictable world to one that's almost totally unpredictable. And yet, all of our organizations have been built for the past, at best for today. And yet tomorrow isn't here 3 years from now, it's here in a year. So how do you as a leader really transform yourself? Because it's not an evolution, it's a revolution. It's a transformation that we're in the middle of right now. There's a fascinating book. I don't really read many business books, but this is a fascinating book for any leader. It was written a couple of years ago by a guy named Gary Hamel. The name of the book is What Matters Now. And the content is exactly what the title is. All of us have grown up for decades learning the industry, learning how to be a manager, learning how to be a leader. And now, because of this massive transformation in the marketplace, a lot of what we know, our knowledge, wisdom, and experience, doesn't work so much, doesn't work so good anymore. And he talks about many things in the book, but one is this, and it's really what Michael started today with. He says there's been 3 marketplace transformations in the last 120 years. And a market transformation for him is something that completely changes everything in the world, how we think, how we behave, the models of delivering products and services to consumers, education, everything changes. The first one was the Industrial Revolution. And in a 20-year period, the entire world changed because of the mass production of goods, and services were built around it, and the global economy exploded in a 20-year period. The second market transformation, post-World War II, industries decided that more information, Matt Powell's of the world, if we could provide you with more data and more information, we could make better decisions. And from there, computing. And computing today has changed and still changes the way we think, the way we operate, the way we deal with customers, the way we deal with the world. Hamel argues that today, right now, 2017, we're in the middle of the third marketplace transformation, and that is organizations, before you even begin with, industries, organizations or leaders that will survive in the future. There's one thing that's more important than anything else, and that's creativity. Because The way we operate today will not lead you to success in the future. You will need creative solutions to how you think, behave, and deliver your products and services. And if you don't, you'll be very, very challenged to be successful going forward. But regardless of how you think about the world, I know, or I would assume that all of you are challenged with the fast change, not the evolution, but the revolution, or in Hamill's words, the market transformation. And are you as a leader prepared to deal with that rapid change? So as I kick off the conference today, I'm going to talk. Diane said, what the hell are you going to talk about? I said, I don't know, but it will come to me between there and here. She's all prepared. She's reading her speech today. I'm very disappointed in Diane. I'm actually going to speak from the heart and some knowledge and stuff. Not my assistant wrote some stuff on a page. Yes. Down with the order. No, so I'm going to talk to you today about, in my opinion, 5 things that are important as a leader. How do you lead your organization going forward? So I'm going to talk about 5 concepts, and I don't have that much time. So I'm going to give you 5 big themes. We'll have some time for question and answer if you're interested. So for me, and I've had the privilege of leading the TaylorMade Golf Company for almost 15 years, and then the last 3 years I've been leading the Adidas business in North America. So I'm giving you my perspective on today's world, leading an organization, and trying to move it forward and looking at how are we going to be successful down the road. So the first theme for me is aspiration. I think organizations, all organizations have, purpose, mission, vision, all this stuff that drives us. But do you really have an aspiration that's bigger than making products, bigger than delivering services, bigger than making money? Something that is a North Star for your organization, that every time you have to make a big decision, what are you looking at that aspiration and you're chasing that dream? In 2000, I was running the TaylorMade Golf Company, and we were a fledgling $300 million small business in a small industry with 2 big competitors, Titleist and Callaway, billion-dollar businesses. And we got together and we said, we should try to do something extraordinary. And we set this North Star of becoming the best performance golf brand in the world and changing the way golfers play the game. And that was our North Star. And over the next 12 years, dozen years or so, our business went from $300 million to almost $2 billion in a market that declined by 20% in value. And if I had to go back to say what was the one thing that changed the trajectory of the company, it was that we had this big aspiration, and every time we were challenged with something, we said, we have to make this decision based on this aspiration. Almost everything that we wanted to do in that period, we did. But the 2 big learnings for me, 2 big learnings are this. One, if you want to recruit new young talent into your business, you have to have a big aspiration. Young people today, millennials, are not interested in balance sheets and income statements. They want to be a part of a company and a brand that's trying to make the world a better place. It's a really, really important thing, this aspiration. And the second thing is this: if you believe in creativity that will drive how you make decisions and how you develop your products and how you change your models, creativity, you know where you find creativity? It's the difference between aspiration and resource. That's where creativity lies. If you look at disruption in the marketplace today, it doesn't come from the market leaders in most cases. It comes from somebody who's doesn't have a lot of resources, big aspiration, and they're thinking about how do I do it better, faster, and cheaper. So if you want to give your business a kickstart and to be able to compete in this really unpredictable world, have a big aspiration and be careful, because when resources get very close to aspiration, that's when companies start to flatten. And you see the S-curve all the time. And it's because the resources become too close and creativity is eliminated. So for me, aspiration. The second one is this word innovation, highly overused today. Innovation to me means one thing: lead change. The world is changing. There's nothing any of us can do about it. If we are going to execute our current model, if we are going to try to evolve our current model, if incrementalism is what drives your company, it will be very, very difficult to move forward. The world, this unpredictable world, is about disruption. Every industry, whether it's transportation, whether it's Uber, whether it's Amazon, changing the way consumers shop, it is changing right in front of us. So as a leader, what do? You do two things. You execute your current strategy, you execute your current business model, but you have to be in pursuit of your own disruption. You have to try to obsolete the way you operate today. And it's a very, very different thing. And if you read Hamill's book, talks a lot about how do you create disruption in your own business. Fascinating topic, but I believe that if you're not chasing disruption, if you're not chasing what obsoletes the way you do business today, somebody else will do it for you. The third concept is experimentation. Many industries experiment a lot. Most industries don't experiment at all. And what I mean by experimentation is kind of a takeoff from innovation. You can't introduce innovation if you're not trying things. And most organizations are big and they're so consumed with running the machinery of the way you operate that they don't have time and money and resources to try things. I think if you're not out there experimenting, and not just new products. Yes, it's great to have an attractive brand and great products and good service and great execution, but that's the cost of entry today. How are you experimenting with delivering your products and services to the consumer? And the fourth theme is the consumer. I think one of the most misunderstood parts of business is all chief marketing officers think they understand the consumer. And I think in today's world, we don't understand the consumer. And if we do, we only momentarily understand the consumer. And we talk about data, and Matt's over here, and he understands more about our industry and our consumer than almost anybody. But you know something? The consumer is moving very, very fast. And so my question to all of us is, do you know which consumer group you're going after? It's a legitimate question. Do you really understand what he or she really wants from you? Give me an example. In 2000, and I have two examples from TaylorMade, and if you want to talk about Adidas, I will, but our business wasn't going anywhere, and life cycles in products in 2000 in the golf industry were typical 3 to 5 year life cycles. And then we went out and we really understood that we found out that the 80-20 rule really applies. 20% of the consumers buy 80% of the goods. And yet, our life cycle management was based on the 80% that bought every 5 years. And so we completely flipped the model around. We started launching products every 12 months, which is what the 20% of the consumers wanted. And our business more than tripled in 3 years, only because for the first time in golf, we understood what the consumer really wanted. So what I would challenge all of us is, do we really understand who we're going after, what he or she wants, and then is the current way we're delivering our products and services, is it matching that need? And if you are today, my guess is if you continue to do it the same way in a year or 2 or 3, you will be missing your consumer target. I think it's the number one challenge for all of us, is understanding this fast changing consumer behavior. And the last concept for me is the most fascinating and interesting, which is, how do we lead our organizations? For thousands of years, the world has been constructed from the top. Whether it's religion or governments or military or family, it's from the top. It's a hierarchy. It's command and control leadership. And the reason that command and control leadership evolved was because we wanted to control the world. We wanted to put boundaries. We wanted to be able, as leaders and managers, to be able to understand what was going to happen next, to be able to predict the results of our business. And so infrastructures and management systems were built for a world around predictability. And now we wake up in 2017, and there is no predictability. Yet the way we're organized is to put predictability in an unpredictable world. It doesn't work. In 2004, 13 years ago, I met a guy that told me, his name is John Hamm. He told me that the current leadership model of command and control will be the reason that most industries, organizations, and leaders themselves fail. Because the world is moving so fast that if you make decisions based on knowledge, wisdom, and experience, you will fail. And I asked him, well, what is the new leadership model? And he used, this was his term, whether it's the correct term or not, he said, effective leaders of the future will distribute the leadership. They will take the responsibility for creating the future, which is what I started with today, which is on your shoulders, and will share that with every single employee in their business. He said, distributed leadership, the role of the leader is to create an environment where every employee takes responsibility for creating the future. Think about that. If you unleash the human capability of every person in your building, if you create the opportunity for people to think and challenge and share ideas, who do you think best knows your consumer? The top of the organization, the middle of the organization, or the people that deal with consumers and customers every day? Well, the answer is simple. We've had idea boxes for hundreds of years and nobody can find them. So yes, it's not a new idea, but it really is the execution of opening up your environment and allowing people to have a voice in creating the future. There's a new role and there's a new description of a really powerful employee for the future. So the perfect environment is a distributed leader that opens up the environment and challenges and wants people to think and challenge the way you do things. But the real change has to be with the consumer or with your employee. And a really great definition of a great employee 10 years ago was smart, diligent, and loyal. Think about somebody that worked for you. They were very smart, very diligent, very loyal. Great employee. In today's world of creativity, it's not enough. A really great employee today is really passionate about what they do, highly creative, and takes initiative. So if you want to find creative solutions to moving your business forward, if you want to stay relevant for the future, yes, data, consumer insights, that's really, really important. But what's more important, in my opinion, is to create an environment where you have creative, passionate people that want to take initiative and make a difference, and you unleash that potential. If there's one thing that's happened at Adidas in the last 3 years, yes, we have beautiful products and we have a hotter brand, but how do you think that happened? How do you think that happened? We've had the same people. We don't have any new people working at Adidas than we did when I started. And how do you think that happened? Because we went in there and we said, we want to do things differently. We want to chase a new model. We want to chase what the consumer really, what he or she really wants, and we want you employees to tell us this, and we want you to challenge everything that we have today, that we do today. I believe extraordinary happens every single day in the world, and it doesn't happen by chance. It happens because somebody has an aspiration. Somebody's willing to challenge the way they do things. Somebody's willing to engage every single employee to think and behave and experiment. And really the responsibility is ours to allow that to happen, and it requires one thing. It requires the courage to be bold. And I know everyone in here represents an incredible business and a lot of success, but I would just make sure that you're looking at the future and how are you going to compete in the future. Michael, thank you for having me today. Thanks. Yeah. So I know Michael has staged 2 questions so that there would be a couple. Where is that question? Yes, sir. Neil.
This is my question. Michael did not plant this one.
Okay, I love that.
But as the leader of Adidas, how much time do you spend for you personally, focusing on corporate culture versus product development versus marketing? Because it seems like you're really into the corporate culture, but how do you balance all of that? That's my first question. And then the second one, is your philosophy the same if you had a large business versus a small business?
I would say this. I think as a leader, you get a handful of things that you can focus on. And the beauty of a company the size of Adidas is that you have so many people and so many layers that are able to do things like create beautiful ads and look at products. I really believe that my role as a leader is to unleash the potential of the people. So for me, I would say it's 80% of my time is spent on the culture and the people and how they think and how they behave and how we're challenging ourselves. So, and I think if you don't do it, and maybe that's too much, I don't know, and I don't know that it's 80, but it's certainly the majority of my time. If you don't give it the majority of your time, it just becomes something that you do at a quarterly offsite or a speech or a video. So I think it's the most important thing you can do. Secondly, big company or small, I don't think it matters. When you think about somebody that works for a small company or somebody that works for a big company, it's his or her job. It's what defines their ability to live a nice life, to buy things, to have a home. The job is a job. I think aspiration for small companies is just as big as it is for big companies. So I don't think it matters what size the company is. Anything else? Yes?
Mark, talk a little bit about the phenomenon about the aftermarket business with Adidas, and how do you guys look at it?
Well, I don't think we do, honestly. I think it's new to me. I mean, I've only been in the footwear business now for 3 years, and it's a way more complex business. There's the aftermarket. There was very little aftermarket in the industry that I came from. The aftermarket here almost defines the regular market in terms of what products are hot or what brand is hot. But I think what we're trying to do, and it's what I talked about, we're really trying to understand our consumer. And our consumer is 14 to 24 years old, and it's what that athlete wears on the field and off the field, which is, I think, when I came, we really kept the style and the performance separate. And they were almost like this, and now we're kind of slanting them in, because really we look at consumers, not an athlete and a human being. They're one and the same. And I think the more we're in touch with that dimension, that the crossing or the intersection of sport and style will create the aftermarket. So we don't focus on the aftermarket at all. It's generated from there, so I would say. Any more? Over here?
Hi, this wasn't planted, this question.
I love that. Michael was trying to help me.
Do you, talking about the consumer, do you see then real growth in direct-to-consumer?
Yeah, I mean,
retailer, that's
yeah, I mean, Victor and I were talking about it. I don't think we have a problem with retail. What does that mean? I mean, just read about all the retailers that are going out of business. Yeah, but look at all the retailers that are doing fine. So to me, it's Diane's understands it because her results show it. She understands where the consumer's going, and she's staying. That's what, to me, innovation is: leading change, or at least staying equal to the marketplace. And the retailers that aren't surviving are stuck in the past. Sports Authority is a great example. I've dealt with Sports Authority for 30 years. They've had 7 or 8 different owners. They've had 10 different management teams. They can't get their stuff together. And yeah, Sports Authority went out of business. Well, why wouldn't they go out of business? You know, they're not in touch. They don't have the right format. They don't have the right connection with their consumers. They don't know who their consumers are. So I think retail is, I think the beautiful thing about America is consumers want to buy stuff in America. So we got to figure out what do they want to buy and how do they want to buy it. So to answer your question, is it going to be more direct to consumer? It's always been direct to consumer. It's just where is it direct to consumer? So the consumer is going to find the easiest path, the most exciting path, the most interesting path to have a relationship with a brand, a retailer, and to get the products he or she wants. It's just figuring that out. And that's where it's going today. It might be different in 5 years, might be different in 2 years, but certainly it's always been direct to the consumer. It's what's direct to the consumer, what is that definition? So I think it's about the consumer, it's not about the channel. How do you touch that consumer? Yes, sir.
I just want to follow up on that. A lot of companies, retailers are concerned about you and your competitors that you're trying to take business in-house at the expense of some of these retailers. Based on what you're saying and some of the things you're doing, is that the case, or is it about building the brand through the correct distribution and so on?
Well, I think most companies would say, oh no, Diane, I want you to have all, and there's a few other Zappos is in here. And so I would say this, yeah, of course we'd like to sell direct to the consumer. We make bigger margins, right? But the reality is that's not our business. Today we do 4% of our global business direct to the consumer, 4%. 96% is with our retail customers. We will never have, as a matter of fact, our new CEO who just came in is really not interested in opening more retail stores. He would actually like to shrink our retail. We don't have that many anyway. We have 50 in the United States. In outlet stores, we have 100. From an e-com standpoint, I don't think we don't really care if we do the business e-com, but when we have consumers come to our site and they want to purchase products, we don't want to, and we have relationships, and we're looking at relationships with retail customers that would marry our experience on e-com and theirs and be able to share inventories and do things very differently in the future. But we're not out to compete with the retailer. We're out to give the best experience to the consumer. And today, if our business goes from 4% to 8%, it still won't make a big impact on delivering our products to the consumer. We need retail customers, and that is the core of our strategy, for sure. Yes?
What are the key things that you have found have worked to unleash the potential of the organization, especially when one has come from a command and control background?
Yeah. Well, a few things. One is that when you go to lower than the management level, the bulk of the people, the mass of the people, at Adidas North America, we have 15,000 employees, and we have, I don't know, a few hundred or maybe 500 that are at management level or above. And when you talk to the people who do the work every day, it's the most exciting, exhilarating, respectful thing you can do for that group. We've spent a lot of money upskilling people on how to be business innovators. I mean, thousands of people. We have all kinds of IT platforms that allow people to share. We have an experimentation team that works with different departments to take ideas. These aren't big ideas. These could be very small ideas. To be able to tell people that we want them to think and to challenge the way we do things and to find new solutions for the future. So 90% of the employees, in my experience, are over the moon. Where you start to struggle is with managers and directors that have worked their entire life under the old system to be the boss, to have the power, and to be able to make decisions. And you're unraveling, in most of those cases, what those people have put in place in terms of legacy systems. So for me, the ideal environment would be influence not based on positional power, but based on thought and creativity. And that's why I think we have to re-educate our leaders to say it's not your job to have the idea, it's your job to find the idea. And I think those are the skills that we have to teach entry-level managers, moving to directors, moving to leaders at vice president. But today those skills don't exist. And it's a transformation. It's truly a transformation. And it's very hard. And that's why the question, how much time do I spend on it? Almost all my time, because if you don't, you're talking about changing the way people think, changing their behaviors, and changing the outcome. It's a very, very challenging process. But what I would say is if you don't do it, what's the alternative? The alternative is, I think you're going to have a hard time finding new creative solutions for the future. So it's a really interesting time to be a leader in the business world today. Yes, sir. Last question.
What is it that you believe made you really relevant again? Was it the product and the boost everything, or what are the things that you believe made you so relevant?
I think it's a really great question, and I get asked it all the time, and then half the time if I answer it, I'll upset people in Germany, because we have a very complex company. That's why we've been so successful in the past here in America. But I think there was one decision when I took the job, and that was that for the first time, the then CEO, Herbert Heiner, and the board said, we have to do things differently in America. It's almost 50% of the global sports market, 45% of the global sports market in North America. We don't treat it that way. We treat Western Europe, we're a Western Europe company, Adidas, in Germany. But the genesis of the thinking has to start to be in America. So we now call Portland co-headquarters. And we've really created a lens looking at America through an American athletic lens. Style, color, names. Look at our advertising today. Look at that ad I mean, the people in Germany don't know who Von Miller is. I don't know if anyone in here does. The people in Germany don't understand why a guy has a grill and a tight bottom on, and they don't get that. But that's what resonates with the young athlete here in America. So we've really changed the tone and who we're speaking to. And from there, products have gotten better. The customers in here would tell you we're a much more friendly company to do business with today, only because we like to sell stuff. I'm not sure the parent company is really about selling stuff. We are. So I think everything changed when they said, let's run Adidas America for America. Believe me, it's not as perfect as maybe we would like it, but it's moved a lot, and it's allowed us to do a lot of the right things. And to be really honest, we had only to go up. I mean, Matt would tell you our market share in footwear 3 years ago was 3%, and in April it was 13%. Now that doesn't sound like a lot maybe to some of you, but 13% market share for us is, and growing, it's massive for us, massive. But I think it's because we're focused on America. That's it for me. Everyone, thank you. Have a great time.